All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for race 3 of the Blue Marble Radical Cup North America series. My name is Tom Drewer, and I'm happy to be here at Barber Motorsports Park. What a wonderful weekend this is turning out to be. The weather has been fantastic today, and the action fast and furious. The USAC safety car is bringing 27 cars down pit lane. And we're about to go racing the final race for the Blue Marble Radical Cup North America today, featuring a pit stop, a mandatory one. So 15 minutes into the race, every driver will have 10 minutes to make that stop. Now, the only change to that program, if you will be if Bo Barfield, our race director, decides to hold back that pit window just due to a full course caution or something like that. But otherwise, 15 minutes in, you'll see a pit window open board displayed. Drivers will start peeling in. Now, that involves a little bit of strategy for the teams, and of course prepares our drivers for what may lay ahead in their careers. Some great racing so far, and the big news from earlier today really was a fantastic result for Jake Cowden. Redeemed himself. Another big one for Nick Persing. Nick Persing taking his first win of the Pro 1500 class, and crucially for him, because Danny Duchelski had 5 wins to his name. All right. Well, we'll take you through the field, and starting from the pole position, it will be John Field, former American Le Mans Series champ, lining up against a highly regarded radical racer, Alan Miller, with more championships to his name, whether that's the 1500 class, the Platinum class. In the second row, it's Steve Jenks alongside Louis Schreiber. All 4 of those drivers capable of winning the Platinum class. Alan Dursey will start from 5th. Nick Persing, fastest in the Pro 1500s and taking the win last time out. Greg Gorski starting from P7 alongside Robert Soroka. And watch out for the number 94 machine. Danny Duchelski starting from position 9 alongside Austin Riley, racing with autism. And Jake Cowden, starting from P11. He was our fastest of the 1340s. Bajoy Garg will start from P12, and Bajoy still looking for his first race win in the Blue Marble Radical Cup. And then we're back to Reed Stewart, Nick Pearson, Mike Anzaldi, David Albon. But we've got a green flag, an early one here at Barber Motorsports Park, and already multiple cars dueling down into turn 1, 3 wide. So far, so good for the Radical racers. And a little bit of commotion further back, and we have a spin now, and a couple of cars tagged. So that's Ben Blander, and looks like David Albon involved in that, and unfortunately, one of the Bacons into the hairpin, turn 6, and John Field defending hard from the 500 machine of Al Miller. Al Miller with a great start again, but not enough to eclipse John Field, who has converted his pole position into the early lead. A little bit of smoke coming up further back in the field. Louis Schreiber poised in 3rd place. Let's see what he can do. Of course, this morning he had a spin while sitting in 3rd place. So as they streak down the backside of the track, we've got a car in the dirt, and that could be disaster. Where did that car come back on? And running wide. There's all sorts of chaos out there. So Mike Anzaldi goes through for a big trip through the grass. And I think that was another Bacon. So the full course caution is out. And just wonder if that's still for the incident in turn 1. We'll take a look at that, I think. So here we go, further back in the pack. You can see there's been a couple of cars off already. Driver running wide and then just has no traction on the grass. And unfortunately, numerous cars collected. And then up the backside of the circuit, I think one of the Bacons may have caused that. And Mike Anzaldi getting pushed out wide. Very lucky not to end up in the safer barrier. So the safety car comes out again. And what was 3 clean races at New Orleans Motorsport Park has turned into 3 races with safety car periods here at Barber. A tough start for a few of those drivers. We'll pick up the leaders. So it's John Field from Alan Miller and Louis Schreiber in the Platinum class. Nick Persing has stayed ahead of his Pro 1500 rivals. So Greg Gorski is sitting in second. Great start for him. Robert Soroka in third. Danny Jashelski in fourth. Aurora Strauss in fifth. And then Bajoy Garg has managed to eclipse Jake Cowden, who's had a bit of a miserable start. Garg sitting 14th overall. He has Mike Anzaldi between himself and Seth Bacon, who sits second in the Pro 1340 class. Cowden relegated to third after starting from the pole. And Ken Savage rather, in fourth position. So the safety car brings the field around for another lap. And it'd be interesting to see what the likes of Louis Schreiber in the 111 machine can do from starting third. See how he gets the restart going. David Albin's car still stricken there on the exit of turn 2. Obviously a little bit more damage to the Wisco Racing car than we first thought. A few battle scars on these cars this weekend. Some amazing stories though. The 111 of Louis Schreiber had an unfortunate incident in practice, and such is the camaraderie in the Blue Marble Radical Cup paddock. Jeff Schaefer from One Motorsports literally walking across the row, walking across the aisle if you like, and helping out a competitor team, welding the chassis back together and allowing a rival to compete. Good night too had the other night for the Blue Marble party. It was great success. Blue Marble Cocktails, the major sponsor of the Radical Cup. It's a lovely thing to be able to enjoy everyone's company through the grid, the wider Radical community. Lots of war stories told, lots of fun had, and quite a few blue marbles consumed as well. But we do thank all of our partners, of course, USAC, Motul and Hankook, Sunoco. John Field seems to have had command of the field for every single race thus far in the season. The safety car is in, and the former American Le Mans Series champion will lead the pack around to take the green once again. And we're racing at Barber Motorsports Park. 6 minutes in, 33 minutes still to go, plenty of time. A long race for the Blue Marble Radical Cup, and so far they're through cleanly. So not too many surprises on the restart. Nick Persing still ahead in Pro 1500, and Al Miller already having a look down into the hairpin. Further back, some good jostling in the 1500 machines. And it looks like Austin Riley was getting pretty racy there. He's having to contend with one of the platinum class cars as Wayne Williams carving his way back up through the field. Steve Jenks trying to put a little bit of pressure on Elaine Dursey. And Jenks has fallen back a little bit, it would seem, from his qualifying position. I tell you who has got all sorts of pressure on him at the moment. And that is Robert Soroka in the number 94. He's a little bit further back, just coming through these final corners. Danny Jashelski is all over the backside of the Ricebeck Racing machine and looking to make a move. The Pro 1500 class has been bolstered this year by a number of young guns coming from the open wheel ranks, and they're, speaking of which, Austin Riley right to the inside through turn one, lucky to keep it on the black stuff on the exit there. He was pushed well over towards the inside of the pit wall, but made it stick. And Jake Cowden side by side with Bajoy Garg as they go around the hairpin. And that's for the lead in Pro 1340. Mike Ansaldi just trips up, gets a little bit of dust and dirt, throws that up on the leaders in Pro 1340 as they head down into the museum section of the circuit. And a big moment as well for Ansaldi, who just got loose. So once again, the 1500 cars running line astern, and the leaders in Pro 1340 tagging onto the back. Al Miller starts another lap. And crucially, it's Al Miller who starts another lap. So there has been a lead change at the start of this pack, and the 500 machine takes over the lead from John Field. So One Motorsport still leading, but teammates have swapped position. And this battle in 1500 continues to rage. So effectively holding up the 1500 class drivers is the 57 of Wayne Williams. And oh, there's touching. There's a couple of touches there as they head into Charlotte's Web. So Wayne Williams sort of balked the field there and allowed the likes of Aurora Strauss to have a go at Austin Riley. A bit of a concertina effect. Williams now starting to get into the rhythm as Pearson has someone side by side with him. I think that's Mike Ansaldi on Nick Pearson. Not to be confused with Nick Persing, who is still leading the Pro 1500 class from Greg Gorski. Would you believe the battle that we're watching is just for the minor places in class? You wouldn't think so, though. So another big lunge, and I think that's ended in drama. It has indeed for the number 3. That is one of the Bacons. That's Seth Bacon for Crown Concepts out of Apex Country Club in Arizona, and unfortunately a pretty aggressive late move has ended in a spin. Austin Riley starting to stretch his legs away from Aurora Strauss as they head down into 8 and 9. Great battles all throughout the 1500 class. Mike Anzaldi is in the thick of it. Reed Stewart as well. Jake Cowden has managed to put a number of cars between him and his main rival for the weekend, Bajoy Garg. But it is Seth Bacon who had that spin, and he'll tumble down the order in a moment on the timing screen. He was running second in class. And has fallen way back through the order. So the Pro 1340s now, Cowden from Garg, and Ken Savage takes over the final step of the podium for the moment. Well, with about 13 minutes into this race, we're about 2 minutes away from the pit stop window opening. You'd say things have settled down a little bit, but not too much. The 500 machine of Alan Miller in command of Platinum and this race outright from John Field, Louis Schreiber, Steve Jenks, Elaine Dursey. The top 5 Platinum class cars running line astern. Stretched out a little bit. Now we're back to Nick Piercing. And it's been a great day for him so far, taking that win earlier today in the lead of the Pro 1500 class. Greg Gorski second, Robert Soroka third, Pro 1500. Watching the battle a little bit further back with Reed Stewart just ahead of Mike Anzaldi. And we're back to Nick Pearson, who is getting mixed up a little bit with Wayne Williams there. And I think that's Bajoy Garg behind him. So 3 classes of car fighting for track position and trying to get away from each other. Garg having a little bit of a frustrating afternoon. It's extremely quick in practice and in qualifying. Right. There's smoke from the second place car, it would appear. It's actually Louis Schreiber. So, what has happened here? Miller's gone through. John Field has as well. Louis Schreiber. There's definitely some smoke coming out of the back of the 111 machine. Can't quite see where that's coming from, whether that's a tyre just rubbing on some rear body work. We mentioned that it had some damage earlier in the weekend, and yes indeed, the rear fascia is all pushed in on the right rear wheel. Now that's going to be a problem. Hopefully though, it's not going to cut down that Hankook tyre, and when he comes in for the pit stop, the team will be able to calmly make some repairs. There's nothing stopping the team from doing so. They just can't be more than 2 people touching the car. And it looks like a couple of teams are getting a little anxious down in pit lane. Rhino Racing getting prepared to make that stop for Louis Schreiber. So who will blink first? What will be the strategy? Will someone try the undercut? Will others stay out and run long? Will someone hope that they can stay out until there is a safety car? It looks like John Field has blinked first. He's in pit lane. The 148 of Nick Pearson has also pitted. A number of cars now trundling down pit lane. So a couple of drivers electing to pit early. Louis Schreiber's in the pits. And the team electing to take off the rear tyre and have a look at this bodywork. So clearly some contact between him and Steve Jenks, and the team actually electing to change the tyre. And a reasonable amount of damage on that Hankook, so that was a clever idea. But what will this cost him? Louis Schreiber will be anxious in that cockpit. And lays rubber out of pit lane in front of the number 94. So a number of drivers, that was Robert Soroka, have made their stop relatively early, while others continue to circulate. One being Alan Miller, who's just crossed the line to start another lap. Miller, the outright leader, and your leader in the Platinum class from Steve Jenks. The lane Durzee's now been bumped up to, well, second place because Jenks is in the pits. Nick Persing has decided to stay out, as has Danny Dashelski. So they're circulating. Danny Dashelski's just done a 1:26.2. Very, very quick time. Almost 0.8 of a second faster than Persing. So Dashelski looking to eat into that lead, and perhaps Dashelski just getting held up a little bit. In fact, both of them, Persing, Dashelski, or Persing rather, being held up by Pearson, and the two Nicks running line astern at the moment, but out of sequence in terms of the pit stops. So Cameron Racing deciding that to wait is the better strategy, perhaps hoping for a full course caution. Austin Riley's in the pit lane and counting down the seconds, and away he goes. Racing with Autism driver, just a fantastic ambassador, has started a movement around the world, Racing with Autism, now in Australia as well. And young Austin just proving that whatever your challenges are in life, you can overcome them and do amazing things. And an amazing racer he is too, winning that outright championship last year. A great dogfight with his class compatriot, a much older racer, Mike Anzaldi, but also the drivers from the other classes. And the way that the point structure works is you get more points if there's more people in your class. So the more competition, the more points you receive. And it's amazing how that plays out throughout the season. Seems to be a good equalizer. Now, Al Miller has just left the pit lane. And crucially, he is ahead of John Field. So, I believe the only real loser, if you will, in that sequence of pit stops is the 111 of Louis Schreiber, who just got held up a little bit due to changing that rear tyre, and he has fallen back behind Steve Jenks. So the order as these pit stops start to play out will be Miller and Field and Jenks. However, it's Alain Durzee that leads on the racetrack at the moment. He still has to pit, mind you. Danny Jashelski also has to pit. Nick Persing has made that stop. So how will the pit stops play out for Dashelski and Persing? That's for the Pro 1500 lead. Persing just went through shot. So there's Schreiber, there's Persing. I would say that Robert Soroka is a part of that, and Greg Gorski. So Fields just put in his best time. We've got a car slow on the way down into turn 5, and that looks like Mike Anzaldi might have had a moment. Meanwhile, Greg Gorski can see a podium position. Robert Soroka is just ahead, and Gorski looking racy down into turn 1. So we just picked up that battle, and Gorski will see what he can do as they head down into the hairpin. And Gorski makes a big lunge to the inside. He's very, very late on the binders. Smoke coming up from the brakes and the locked up Hankook tyre. He just pulled it up in time and did a good job to keep it out of the side of Robert Soroka. But Gorski taking no prisoners around Barber Motorsports Park. So interestingly, Nick Persing has come out ahead. Tuchelski, it's been a disaster of a pit stop for him, it would appear. I think as the timing just catches up with the track position, we'll find that Tuchelski has gone down the order a little bit. So there's Persing crossing the line to start another one. It is Soroka, then Gorski, and then Tuchelski. So that hasn't worked out. The pit stop has put him back a little bit. Gorski on for a podium. Over 50 years of age, proving that you don't have to be one of these young guns to do the job in a radical. In fact, that's the wonderful thing about these cars. And Soroka certainly braking pretty early there for the hairpin, and Gorski almost having to check up. So this is the battle for second place in Pro 1500. Nick Persing out in the lead. And a fantastic duel between Robert Soroka, Greg Gorski, Danny Tuchelski for second place. Gorski with some slightly different lines there as they come over the crest and around the final sequence of corners. Very challenging part of the racetrack, and Tuchelski giving it his all. You can see the car slide out for a moment, but he's got some good momentum through this final corner. And now Gorski goes into the clutches of Danny Tuchelski. What will Danny do? Will he make a move down into turn 1? No, he's just a little bit far back. It's a very short braking zone in turn 1. But Tuchelski seems to have momentum around this racetrack, a little bit more confidence perhaps than Greg Gorski at the moment. And Nick Persing, meanwhile, is just cruising out ahead of that. He streaks away down the straightaway as Soroka leads the Greg Gorski and Tuchelski. It's quite a gap that Persing's got. The Coleman Racing driver stepping into the radicals after experiencing Formula Regional, lots of karting. Says these cars are just amazing to drive. So much more nimble, lightweight, lots of aero compared to some of the Formula cars he's driven. Was very, very impressed. Now Gorski goes from being the hunted to being the hunter. So Gorski now gets a run on Soroka as they go onto the main straight. Just over 13 minutes remain. Jake Cowden is still leading Pro 1340 from Bajoy Garg. Then it's Jace Bacon, Ken Savage. So Jace has moved up one position. Seth Bacon, Ben Blander. And here we go again. So almost contact between Soroka and Greg Gorski in the 24. These guys are fighting absolutely ferociously as they head into the chicane down near the museum. And that has allowed Danny Dashelski to close up a little bit. So Persing enjoying the fresh air as his rivals behind fight hard for the second and third steps of the podium. The Platinum leaders now encountering a fair bit of traffic. Alan Miller with plenty of work to do. John Field could get an opportunity here as they head into the museum corners. And there really is a gaggle of cars ahead of the outright leader, Alan Miller. Another lunge by Dashelski this time on Gorski. So we'll try and pick up the leaders of the race as they head towards the start-finish line here. And the 500 of Al Miller is still in command of this motor race. Coming through turn one. John Field now dealing with a fair bit of traffic as he tries to close the gap on the 500. The blue flags are out as they head down into Charlotte's Web. And John Field getting very, very close to the back of the 500 machine of Al Miller. And in the mix there was someone we haven't talked about too much, and that was Ken Savage. So Soroka having a little bit of a reprieve now as Gorski under pressure from Danny Dashelski. Has just started to focus a little bit more on his mirrors than ahead. But the order pretty calm in 1500. You just have to think, though, at any time this could change. One little slip from Robert Soroka, and all of a sudden the battle will change. Dashelski taking a huge amount of curb down in turn 9 through the high-speed chicane of 10 and 11. They go. Fantastic sequence of corners. Just fantastic to drive in these high downforce, high horsepower radical sports cars. So the leaders now into the center hairpin. And John Field has taken over the lead. So the traffic has played havoc for Indy Al Miller. The 500 car is now second on the road. Field in the lead as he heads towards the museum. John Field capitalizing on the traffic, and now Indy Al Miller with 9 minutes to make something happen. He'd done the hard work, he'd got into the lead, and now seems to be just pulling back. He can't seem to keep the pace of John Field, who's come alive. Miller perhaps having a moment to regroup, think about what just happened. The frustration must be boiling over inside the helmet. He'd led the motor race, he'd done everything right, and a little bit of traffic, all of a sudden everything came undone. John Field is a master at passing cars thanks to all of his American Le Mans Series experience. And Field, if you give him an inch, he will absolutely take the 3 or so feet that he needs to dive down the inside. So Field very, very aggressive. However, Miller is too, and Elaine Dursey trundling through pit lane. I imagine he was just slightly short on his pit stop. Unfortunate for him, the 09 for One Motorsports. So John Field just set the fastest lap of a 1:24.1. Miller almost matched it with a 1:24.2. Steve Jenks is sitting in third place. Louis Schreiber fourth. Then we're back to Nick Persing, who leads Pro 1500 from Robert Soroka, Greg Gorski, Danny Jashelski. That order hasn't changed, although they've been certainly dicing it up for position. Jake Cowden leads Pro 1340 from Reed Stewart on the track, but it's actually Bejoy Garg who sits in second in Pro 1340. Jace Bacon is third. So Cowden in 11th overall, Reed Stewart in 12th. He's still in a bit of a battle with Nick Pearson in Pro 1500. And Mike Anzaldi making the move down into the hairpin side by side on Ken Savage, and making it stick. Now Savage coming under all sorts of pressure. We've got a car stuck down in 5, and that is Indy Al Miller. It's running second. And what's happened here? Just lost it under brakes. And a big moment for Al Miller. Oh, collected the barriers very, very hard. And he's still sitting in that car. Hopefully he's given the officials the thumbs up. But a huge hit. Wonder if something broke, because it's just strange for a multi-time champion to have that kind of issue, and the full course caution is out. Miller still in the 500 machine. From second on the racetrack, and Al Miller, as I say, a multi-time champion in this series. So very strange for him to make some kind of driving error. So the caution flags are out. The safety car is just waiting for the leader, John Field, who was very lucky, really, not to be collected by Indy Al Miller. Steve Jenks has been promoted to second place. Louis Schreiber to third in Platinum. So the safety car is about to be deployed. And the field somewhat under control. John Field calming the field down, in fact. So they go up over the backside of the circuit through turn 12 and 13. USAC safety car starts to roll out on the circuit. Hopefully we can get some emergency crews over to Indy Al Miller. Interesting to take a look at that moment just one more time, but it just looked like something may have failed in the rear end of that car. Potentially an issue under brakes, but unlikely that he changed the brake bias too much in this race. And possibly just some kind of failure in the rear suspension. Perhaps a tyre instantly deflating, but whatever it was, that car immediately turning right and into the wall hard. So John Field will be concerned about his fellow racer. They might be rivals on the track, but they're great mates off it. And that's one of the things we love about the Blue Marble Radical Cup. So much camaraderie, so much fun had away from the racetrack. Number of drivers out for dinner last night and just soaking up everything that Birmingham has to offer. Right, so perhaps we'll get a replay just one more time of this incident. You could see immediately, it's almost before Al Miller got onto the brakes, the rear end of the car just got away. It was instantly, as soon as he was on the brake pedal, very early in the braking zone, rear end of the car starts to rotate, and a big hit into the right-hand side. Miller had quite a significant crash at Watkins Glen last year. In fact, Louis Schreiber involved in that one as well. And really a testament to the strength of these cars and the safety cells. FIA chassis, very extensive crash box. So the white flag is out on the field. This one is going to end under full course caution. And unfortunately, for some of those drivers, they won't get that opportunity to make that final move. It's been a great day, though, for John Field. A great weekend indeed. John Field, if he can make this lap behind the safety car, will take yet another race win in the Platinum class. From Steve Jenks, Louis Schreiber has come home third. That's a good result for him after that spin earlier today. Nick Persing in the Pro 1500 class, an outstanding result for him. Taking another win, 2 for 2 today. And Persing will undoubtedly be pumping the fist when that occurs. Robert Soroka, another podium as well. Greg Gorski back on the podium. For the first time this season, Danny Dashelski is off the podium in Pro 1500. There'll be a lot of drivers in that field thankful for that, because somehow they need to claw back what has been an outstanding start to the season and a massive points haul for young Danny Dashelski. Austin Riley, a strong finish for him. And again, all of these drivers need to make it around and pass the checkered flag. It is being prepared. The full course caution is still out. No green-white checker in this case. The safety car likely to remain out on the circuit, given that they're still cleaning up Indy Al Miller's wreck. So John Field has already had time to think about this one. He's taken yet another race win. Congratulations to him. He gives the starter stand a thumbs up. Steve Jenks, an outstanding drive. Wonderful result. Louis Schreiber home third, as we said before. And Jake Cowden doing the business in 1340. So there we go. John Field from Steve Jenks, Louis Schreiber. Persing home fourth overall. Outstanding result for that young man in the Pro 1500 class. Robert Soroka second in class. Greg Gorski third. And Jake Cowden in 10th position, winning Pro 1340. Joy Garg was second in that class in 12th there. Jace Bacon rounding out the podium in Pro 1340. Of course, a few drivers having a few issues out there. But a great weekend of racing from the Blue Marble Radical Cup. It's been an absolute pleasure to be a part of this one, to be a part of IndyCar here at Barber Motorsports Park. If you follow the IndyCar circuit around, we'll see you again at Road America. And until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend here. If you want to come down and celebrate the victors in the Blue Marble Radical Cup, we'll be making our way to the podium, celebrating some success. But for now, we'll sign off from up here in the commentary booth. We'll see you next time.